I finally learned how to pitch Sorcerer at conventions, and
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed the last few Gen Cons I did, and had great success with Sorcerer this way. And I won't give you the whole thing, but
Okay.
part of it had to do with the you can't tell what's going to happen between the demon and the sorcerer. Number one, you can't tell. Number two, that gaming or GMing this game has no plot safety net.
Right.
There's no safety net for the plot. And I learned to enjoy people's reactions because given the conversation, up to that point, I could tell, whether they were following what I was saying. And then I could
Yeah.
say, and there's no safety net for plot. What's going to happen?
Right.
And some of them just like lit up. And it was
Yeah.
all I could do, to not lose a finger as they got the book out of my hand.
Right.
And then others just would almost like cave in on themselves and get out of there as quickly as they possibly could. They had clearly been talking to a crazy man, and
Right. Yes.
the clearly this was the bad they were where were the warning signs? No, I walked in here, and so
Right.
but it was always a strong reaction
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that became the issue. I mean, are you a game master because you are making damn sure that you are the safety net for plot? Or are you the game master because you are prepared for there not to be one?
Yes. Right.
And but this is important for preparation and setting stuff because the whole issue's been confounded, hasn't it, with improvisation.
Yes.
I'm not even
Right.
really talking about improvisation.
No. Mm-mm.
That's a
That's completely
different dial,
different.
right?
Yes, it is. It is a
Yeah.
different talk. Right. Right.
So and so as soon as whenever I need to talk to this about people, they think that's what I'm talking about. And that's when they start saying, "Oh yeah, I wing it too," and I'm like,
That's not what I mean.
"That's not what I. Yeah, that's not what's going on." So what does
Right.
this come to for you in your DMing these days?
Um,
For this
I
thing
it
you're doing in particular, this I've been making fun of you, the insane person,
right. No, in terms of it was a great opportunity to with uh, the current crisis, as it were, to like, okay, we're just going to play some D&D or other games. I've got other games planned as well. Um, and we're not going to do too much. We're just basically do the West Marches type of thing. You tell me where on the map, or I'll give you some places that are interesting. You tell me where you want to go, and we'll go there.
and I'll make
Uh,
up some shit for right there.
right. Yes. Right. I have an
This is
idea.
this is basically Sorcerer and Sword then.
Yes. Right.
Right.
Right. Very much
Where
like
the
that.
idea was that you build a setting out of doing that multiple
Right.
times. Yeah.
Right. And now, any given game has certain expectations. If I were running RuneQuest, you might find brew at
Right.
a certain
Right.
place.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you were playing D&D. Okay, you're going to find some goblins there
Mm-hmm.
eventually,
Mm-hmm.
and they may show up somewhere around. But but getting back to your whole hyenas and the key, there is no. You run into them when you run into them,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't propel the plot forward.
Mm-hmm.
They just you want to have they're just an interesting thing along the way.
That's an
Uh,
interesting point, though. They could propel a plot forward, but the point is that you don't know what that's going to be.
yes, correct.
That's
Right, is something interesting. Well, relying on the players, if they capture a goblin, now
right.
I have the opportunity to say, "Hey, here's something interesting
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that you can do." The last group discovered a name, just a talisman around the one of the dead people's necks. Um, and all I said is it's a red dragon
Mm-hmm.
on the talisman. That's it. And so now they're interested. They may be interested in pursuing that at some
Right.
point.
And that's the and again though you're skirting that dangerous potential of over controlling it,
Right.
right? And then sort of creating adventures in front of whatever they do. But on
Yeah.
the other hand, as long as you know that that's a danger and that instead there are things that you will have to make up that will have more solidity,
Right.
then it's going to be a very interesting, adventure for you. I'm thinking back to my Champions GMing from 30 years ago,
Yeah.
and clearly I was fighting those two processes without realizing that they're different.
Yeah.
Because I would do, like you said, I'd put a cool thing in, the players would get interested, and I would use it to bend them to something I wanted.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yes.
But then only later did I realize that there was some weird kind of dissatisfaction. Half the time, or more than half the time, the players were thrilled with our game. But a significant amount of the time, somebody, if not everybody, but somebody was bored and pissed.
Yes.
And I was like, what's the difference? Because I was like all about, I would have told you the words, the story,
Right.
the whole time. So I couldn't figure out why sometimes they felt disempowered and like I was playing their character for them. These are quotes. But to
Right.
me, I would be like, wait, what?
Yeah, what are you talking
But
about?
only in retrospect do I look back and say, yeah, you're right. I stuck that guy in there, and then I was mad when you didn't fall in love with him.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. They can or they cannot pursue this amulet thing, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it too relies on what questions they ask. They might. I mean, they haven't. This is not something, but they could say, "Oh, is this a religious symbol, or is this a magical symbol, or is it something along those lines?" And depending on the questions they ask, can inform how I want. Can inform how I react to it.
This is what I was talking about with sketchy stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that if you have sketchy stuff in there, but it's not the only things you have in there. There are things
Right.
that are also going to operate as knowns, as constraints, as consequences. Right.
Yes.
Those as well. Then I think that can be very strong, because otherwise you get into the anxiety that you may have been feeling based on what you said earlier, in that, well, I can't have sketchy or labile stuff. It all has to be nailed down.
Right. Yes.
And because you're absolutely right that if everything is like that, then you're going to fall into the trap of just controlling things, because everything's up in the air. And so you're just going to juggle it, right? But you're the juggler.
Yes.
And so, and I completely get that. And it's exhausting, by the way. A person can be an expert in it, but it is exhausting. And
it is.
We've talked about this before, perhaps, when somebody will tell me all about what an exceptional game master they are, and how they're always in control of the story, and how the players never realize it, and all the rest of it. And then I ask them, so how's it going? They're like, God, I fucking hate it. I'm so tired.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of reasons not to do it. For one thing, I think also players are a lot more savvy than people realize, and they're putting up with you, basically.
Right, and I think that goes back to the relation, and I think a lot of this all born out of the idea of GM prep. Fundamentally goes back to the relationship between what am I doing here at this table? Why am I here? Not, I mean, I love to run role-playing games, and I love to run role-playing games. But what am I doing here at this table in this system at this moment? What is my job? Sounds a little bit banal.
Yeah.
But what is my
what am I going to
role?
Do? Yeah.
Right. What is my role here? And mountains of things have been written between the adversarial and the non-adversarial. Are you a player GM? Are you a killer GM?
That's so simplistic based on the kind of things we're talking about, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Let's assume that we're doing something that everybody likes.
Yes. Right.
So get away from the idea that there's conflict about it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, and I think we like you're playing with the right people. Get all that crap out of there. Right. We everything's fine.
Yeah.
Now, what's the answer to that question?
Right. Exactly. What am I doing here now that we're all on the same page? So what are you doing here? What are you doing here? What am I doing here? And how do we relate with that?
Mm-hmm.
and I think that it can be very adversarial and very top down.
Oh, there's tons of ways, certainly. But the
Yeah.
important thing, I think, is to know what it is, and that therefore, when you do prep for it, that it is fruitful. I mean, you say,
Yes.
okay. I mean, there's plenty of stuff I prepped that we never get to in a particular session.
Yeah. Right.
But I feel it was fruitful prep in its own way, and so it's kind of an important point to let yourself prepare the things that you really do feel you need to be locked down.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe the
The
clan
important
dynamics
situations.
across the hill are a big deal because you're going to have people here in this side of the mountains talking about it. Maybe
Right.
not even as a cue to go and like solve the problem or something, but just because when you're dealing with these NPCs, that's on their mind.
Yes.
And
Right. Because they're real people and they have real opinions.
this is something that is important. Now, the RuneQuest game is a good example because I feel as though I've been very weak in my NPC play, and in the last couple of sessions have taken some effort to correct that. And so it's so the notion of saying, okay, everyone says play your NPCs. What do they mean?
Yes. Right.
And if they don't have a relationship to the environment around them, then you can't.
No, you can't.
So
Right.
and so it's otherwise you'll fall into the trap of the NPCs are there to keep information away from you until such a time as you roll well.
Right. Yeah. Once you've earned it, then
Yeah.
Bob will tell you all about the crash spaceship.
Right. Thanks. I think we kind of rounded out some of our thoughts on
Yeah.
these things.
I think so too. I do appreciate it. I think it's a pretty good discussion.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
All right, man. Good luck with everything. See you later.
You too. Talk to you later.